with R's Garage. In this video, I'll be working on the Schumacher LD3 stock spec steps 19, 20, and 21. So let's get started. Alright, so before I even started this step, I actually opened the bag already and I prepared my bearings for installation. So basically what I did was I popped the seals off, and I found that there was grease in these bearings. So I have a video, I'm not going to do it in this video, but I have a video out there. I'll put a card up so you can check it out, and I'll put a link in the description for where you can find it. But basically I cleaned out the grease and oiled the bearing the way that I like to do it, and now they spin a little bit more free. So just take note of that these bearings are grease filled. And they're going to create a bunch of drag. So if you want to, I highly recommend cleaning them out and oiling them. All right, so the bearings that are in the kit, these are all different sizes. There's two 5x10x3 bearings and two 5x10x4 bearings. So it's showing that we want to use the 5x10x3 on the inner side of the hub, and the 5x10x4 goes on the outer side of the hub. So the thickness of the bearings are different, as you can see. So this is the 4mm thick, and this is the 3mm thick over here. So this is going to go on the inside of the vehicle, and this will go on the outside of the vehicle. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is install the 5x10x4 bearing on the axle on the side that has the larger thread. We're going to install that bearing. Then we can line up the hole in the wheel hex with the hole in the axle and install the pin. So make sure that pin sits nice and flush, and then we can use the supplied O-ring, which is a 9x1, and install this O-ring in the groove. And once it's installed in the groove, it'll capture that pin so the pin doesn't fall out. I don't know why they didn't just do clamping wheel hexes like everyone else, but this seems to work just fine. So on this side, we're going to install the 5x10x3 bearing. Now we can insert our axle assembly, and from the other side, just like so. And make sure that these little dimples are facing the outside of the vehicle. If you installed it the other way, then you have to flip it. So now we can install a M3 washer and the M3 nylock nut. And you don't want to tighten up too much. Once you feel it shoulder up, it's good. And just make sure everything spins nice and free, which it does. So now we can do the other side. So again, we're going to install the 5x10x4 bearing on the axle. We're going to face this side of the wheel hex towards the bearing. This side with the dimples is going to face outside. So we'll line up the holes. Install the pin. Install the O-ring. Install the 5x10x3 bearing. Install the axle assembly. Then the M3 washer and the nylon nut. All right, everything moves nice and free. So that is it for step 19. Let's move forward to step 20. So step 20, we're gonna go ahead and install the control arms onto the front pivot block assembly. So we're gonna make sure that we have the correct orientation. This is my right side, this is my left side. We can tell that by the curve on the control arm and the pivot ball facing the front of the vehicle. So we're going to line up the holes of the pivot block with the holes of the control arms, and then we're going to install the suspension pin. All right, and everything moves under its own weight. Do the same thing to the other side. Okay. Now, since we're using the brass pivot block, we're going to install the 2 set screws with some blue Loctite. If you're using the plastic one, then you do not need to use blue Loctite for this. So I'm going to grab the M3x4 grub screw, put a dab of blue Loctite on here, and you don't want to over tighten it because you can strip it out. So once it's snug, it's good. So it says in the manual this is a tuning option as well. If you can move this suspension pin to a certain point where it'll allow the arm to float front to back just a little bit. So it just depends on how tight you want your car or how loose you want your car. So it's interesting that they did that. I'm going to make sure that my suspension arm can move back and forth evenly. I don't like my cars to be too tight because they act a little twitchy, in my opinion. A little bit of play isn't bad. So I would definitely play around with this setting to your liking. So now the arms are in, we can install the front bumper. We're going to use an M3x12 button head screw. And since we use the brass bulkhead, we're going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on there. If you're using the plastic one, you don't need this. You don't need the Loctite. We can install the shock tower guard. This side is the front that has like the rounded nose. This side is the back that's like squared off. So just take note of that. So it just slides on. We're gonna install an M3x12 button head screw through the front and install a M3 nylock nut from the back. All right, we can go ahead and pop on our camber links. All right, everything still moves nice and free. We can grab our steering links and go ahead and pop those on too. So we have our steering links. That's the right side. This is the left side. So we can go ahead and pop these on. All right, everything moves nice and free, like it should. Now we can go ahead and install our shocks. So we can grab those. All right, so we're gonna install the shocks in the outermost position. So we're gonna put the M3x20 button head screw through this hole and this hole here. Everything moves nice and free. It did before I installed the shocks, and it moves still nice and free with the shocks attached. So that's it for step 20. Now we can move on to step 21. I'm excited because now it's going to start to look like an actual buggy. So what's cool about the Schumacher is that it has this chassis insert. So there's two settings that you can use. There's a +5mm chassis insert or a 0. So you could have a long chassis or a short chassis, which is cool because other brands like Associated or X-Ray, you have to buy a completely new chassis in order to get a short chassis. So that's pretty cool that this part eliminates that need to buy an extra, $100 chassis. So we're going to use this one right here, which is the +5mm. So it's going to install on the chassis like so and line up with these 4 holes. So once it's lined up with those 4 holes, we're going to line up the bottom of this front assembly with these 4 holes. And we're going to screw in 4 M3x10 flathead screws. So the front is on, the chassis plate. So now we can install the side rails. So the pointy end will go towards the front of the vehicle, and this screw hole will go towards the back. And they look symmetrical, so I don't think you need to worry about which one goes on which side. We're going to install 4 screws on each side. So we're going to install 3 M3x10 flathead screws in these holes here, and an M3x20 flathead screw in this hole. And it's going to be the same for the other side, M3x10 and M3x20. That's why I'm using my electric screwdriver, since this is going to be a lot of tightening down. So I'm going to do most of the way with the electric screwdriver and then finish it off by hand. All right, so that's it for step 21. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Let me know down in the comments if you have any tips or tricks for these steps. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll do my best to help you out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.